up, YouTube? Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Prestige Reef Dork Show. It is Sunday night, and that means that I am Alex, I am Reef Dork, and I'm hanging out with Ryan from the UK's #1 coral selling website, the best place to buy corals in the entire country. Ryan, how are you?
I don't take compliments well, do I? Especially made up ones. I'm good, thank you.
Name a better place to buy corals than prestigereef.co.uk.
I can't do that because I'm advertising my competitors then. So let's just pretend what you're saying is true.
Exactly. There aren't any. I agree. And we're going to just straight off. We'll have a bit of a chat in a sec, but straight off, I like weird fish is going for a burn. Remember that tank in Berlin that burst in the hotel?
Yes, yeah.
There was a couple of, actually, do you know what? I'll come back onto that. I'll come back onto
that's like a really, really old. That's like really old news.
Yeah, no, like 6 months.
To be doing a burn to.
But still, so we're going to be talking about the thumbnail for this. We're going to be talking about what tank size is best, small, medium, or large. But it's not really what's best. It's just that's the question that people ask all the time. It's like the pros and cons of all. Although Ryan's got some strong opinions on this, but
there's definitely one that's best, definitely.
But anyway, the thumbnail is not. I'm not supposed to be advertising Red Sea as such. It's just that was a really easy thumbnail to grab that showed small, medium, and large tanks. But a few people have posted about Red Sea. Yes. And I wonder if they thought I was trying to, like, I don't know, make this about Red Sea, which is
I understand now because I understand the Red Sea comment now because I was like, what? That's really random.
I know, exactly, yeah. But there's some Red Sea news that we'll come on to when we get to the news section, but that's not for now. So, Ryan, what have you been up to this week?
What have I been up to this week? Don't know really, but for once, it's actually got thankfully, I've got a quiet week in reefing so far this week.
Oh yeah, because it's when it's not quiet, it's normally bad.
Yes, that's true. I've been working a lot in the coral farm, but that's just sort of frags and things like that. I'm starting to get properly back into it where I want to really start pushing it and get new corals in and make it more interesting to people. With regards to the water box, I have got a new love of inverts, basically inverts. I love the urchins, the shrimp that's in there. I quite enjoy even the tiger cowrie. I'm getting a new appreciation when you have nothing to look at but inverts. That you start to realize that they're actually far more fascinating than you ever thought they were.
Is it just snails and urchins then, or like shrimp and stuff?
That's what was in there. Yeah, and I've got a couple of corals in there, but other than that, it's literally just shrimp and various different snails. Even like the Nasaria snails are in there now as well.
They're cool. Yeah.
So, but something I did want to say was that, and I said this to you obviously earlier, there was quite a large outbreak of green hair algae in that tank. And once I put all the urchins in, the nutrients went up. You remove the phosphate and the nitrate with various means, and all of a sudden, absolutely spotless. Jamie came in yesterday. He went, well, yeah, this is a spotless tank again. So it does work. Sometimes it feels like you're fighting a losing battle when it comes to things like hair algae and diatoms. But as long as you follow certain things to do, it works in the end, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, cleanup crew is usually the answer as well. Cleanup crew is really good. Can sometimes feel like they're not working.
Yeah.
But if you get the right type and if you get enough of them, they're brilliant. Doesn't mean that's not a cure for bad water, but you know.
That's exactly how I felt at first. I thought 8 urchins, like, how is this not working for like the first couple of days? And now, like a week later, it's spotless.
It's funny though, because no matter, you've been in the hobby 15 years?
Yeah.
15 years, and you're still you know, actually, if you step back, you know, give it a week, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But after a couple of days, you're still and I do that sort of thing all the time.
It's annoying, isn't it?
Yeah. And then you realize, oh, hang on, just chill out.
The other thing that I have realized as well, because I've run 2 different tanks where, but with this one, I think that you want to make sure you've gone through that cycle, you've gone through the hair algae, you've gone through everything before you put any corals in, because it was far easier to deal with the phosphate in that tank because you can lower it as quickly as you want, in theory.
Good point, yeah.
So you want to make sure you've got your parameters dialed in perfectly before you put your first coral in. Because if you're trying to catch up just because you're too eager to get stuff in, it's going to cause you a lot more problems in the long run than it does like fixing it straight away.
Yeah, I completely agree. I on my Fujifilm Evo, which was the tank I set up most recently, I put a GSP in the first couple of weeks, but that's because they're hardy as hell.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. But there's no way, if I've since put in a load of LPS corals, there's no way I'm going to load that up day one.
Yeah.
And I've seen, like, some people say it's a good idea. Jake Adams used to say it's a good idea. If
Yeah,
you've got his level of experience, maybe it is. But I think for 99% of people, I think it's far better to go slow.
The most important thing is, so it's better to not have fish. If you're going to start with coral, don't have fish at the beginning and provide them with a different food source of like a nitrate and phosphate by dosing it.
Yeah,
because that's how I did the coral farm. The coral farm started on day one with it was full. It was packed. One of the trays was completely full of coral, like torches and hammers and all different SPS with no fish at all. And it worked completely fine. I think when you put the fish in, that's when you have a far more difficult cycle than and then trying to add the corals afterwards.
Yeah, fair enough. But I'm just a big fan of just taking it slow.
I agree. Out of interest, when do you think the best time to put coral in is for a beginner? Because people ask me this all the time.
I don't think there's anything wrong with putting one coral in early on.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be, definitely 100% should not be an SPS coral. Yeah. No matter how hardy you're told a Monty is or whatever.
Yeah.
It's no way should it be an SPS coral. Ideally not an LPS coral either. But there's nothing wrong with putting a soft coral in relatively early. Because that'll tell you if it'll sulk if your parameters are off anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a problem with that. But I'd wait. You just want. There's no answer like a timeline exactly, but maybe 2 or 3 months by the time. It's when your water parameters have settled. Because if you test in the early days, stuff's all over the place, and you're like, what? I don't understand why that's happening. But your levels are all over the place, and it just takes a bit of time to bed in and just chill out a bit and find its own. Because whether it's because bacteria is building up, I don't know what it is, the ins and outs of it. But a few months in, things are starting to stable out. And so
there's a period at the beginning when you're cycling a tank when nothing. So you've got fish in, especially if you use a bottle of bacteria, and the tank looks pristine, and it's for 2 or 3 weeks, it's still pristine. And you go, it gives you a full sense of security. And then you put a coral in, and then all of a sudden it goes, and you're like, oh, I put a coral in too early. No, it may very well have come on the coral, which was the problem. But
it might not have done.
Yes, but like that is definitely a thing where it gives you a full sense of security at first, and then there's like an explosion. You're like, oh, I've got to deal with this. So you're better off dealing with that explosion with minimal coral than loads of it very early on, is what I think.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it, because it's hard to tell what caused it when it's that early on. But if you after a couple of months, 2 or 3 months, your nitrate and phosphate are a bit more stable, and everything's kind of okay, then start slowly.
Yeah.
But yeah. So and actually a few people have noticed there's a new tank.
Yeah. I was wondering, we were talking a minute ago for about, I think, 5 or 10 minutes before I even noticed it was there.
Oh God, there's a bloody great tank behind you. So I've done 2 significant. I've had a really busy week, but like good busy, just doing lots of fish tank stuff, which has been great. First thing, I upgraded my return pump, and I took the opportunity to clean out my return pump section in my main tank. This was, and it was filthy. There was about almost an inch of silt just at the bottom of the section, so I had to scoop that out with a little a scoop I made, and then I had to run a pump from that to my reef mat, and I used a meter of roll just to clear out all the crap in there.
All the crap.
And
it was probably even siphon it out.
Well, but it was all right on the bottom, and if I'm siphoning it out, I'm taking all the water out, so I'd have to replace it with new water.
I know what you mean.
So it was just easy to do that. But yeah, it was filthy, and it looks so much better now. I feel like I should have done that, because I've not touched it for probably 2 years. I feel like you should be doing that little and often rather than all at once. But it didn't release this spike of nastiness or whatever. Everything was all fine. But it's really satisfying having a clean sump now.
What I do for other, if anyone else is thinking about doing this, I turn off the return pump, lower the compartment so it's almost separate, so no water's going over, and then completely suck out all the water and all the crap in that compartment, so it doesn't go any further, and then fill that compartment back up with fresh water, like not fresh water, like clean.
And then you
water.
can get like a kitchen towel and clean up all the crud as well, I guess.
You can literally make it absolutely spotless, and it doesn't affect. Like if you're trying to do that while the tanks are on, you can like mix all the crap and it gets put back into the tank. But it's interesting. Have you when did you do that? Because you can have negative whenever you disturb anything like that, there can be a negative like experience which you never imagined would happen.
So I did it on Friday evening, but it's been totally fine. And it's just fine. And but you're right, and there was so much silt there that if I wasn't careful, not if I wasn't careful, I could easily have disturbed something. It's like tossing up a massive part of your sound bed. But it was only like a 10-inch square area. But yeah, it's one of those things that you mess up and then you're like, oh god, and everything goes wrong and you're like, why did I do that? But it was And then the second thing I've done is over my shoulder.
Out of interest, sorry, what did you change the return pump to? You said you upgraded it.
Refactory. Yeah, I had 2 Jecods. Until now, I had Jecods on all of my tanks. I like them. But to a refactory one, it's been given to me for a review. But it's a refactory base pump. It's called. It's basically the same as a Jecod. It looks like a Jecod. It is a Jecod, but it's got
probably can't say that.
Well, it is. It's like the Red Sea one's a Seache.
There's
nothing wrong with saying that, but it's got a better control box because the refactory made a control box, and it's got an app as well. And you can get an app with the Jecod ones, but I've tried to get it to work. I just can't get it to work. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I think it's something to do with the Wi-Fi, but anyway, but I'll do a review in a couple of weeks, whatever. I know you love equipment, so well, I'll phone you later to give you a debrief.
Please, because 2 hours of talking to you is not enough for me.
I know you'll need to fall asleep. So, and then the other thing was the tank, of course. So this is again freebie. Just saying that just as a disclaimer. So this is a Cade S2 500N Nano, I think, something like that. So it's a 50 centimeter by 50 centimeter by 50 centimeter cube. So it's smaller than a Red Sea Reefer 170, bigger than a Red Sea Max Nano, but not much. And it's about, well, they say it's 146 liters, but it'll be probably 120, 100, something like that. But I've set that up, and at the moment, so my Fluval Evo is about 6 feet to my left now, out of sight. But I'll be transferring all of the livestock over to this tank. But I'm enjoying taking things slowly. So that's just fresh water in there.
So it's the Fluval Evo that you're not taking stuff out of the water box to put in there.
No. That's So that is because I've got that as an upgrade to the Fluval. So I want a bit more space, actually for fish as much as anything. But so I'll transfer. But I'm taking it slowly. So that's just fresh. That's just tap water in there. That's a leak test today. So I set up all the plumbing in. So I can do that to start with. Just have the water leak test, and then a couple of days time, I'll start putting equipment in. A couple of days after that, I'll drain it, and I'm in no rush. Normally, I rush these things, and I'm desperate to get everything in straight away. But now it's like, why? I'm just going to take my time. I don't need. If that's still just got tap water in it in a week's time, it's fine.
There is you'll end up doing what I do, where you get a tank arrive and then you don't put anything in it for like the first month.
I won't be that bad.
That's what happened with the water box. It was just sitting on the kitchen floor, wasn't it, for ages.
This is true. I might not get so much time next weekend actually, but I'm hoping to. I haven't got really a time scale, but I won't be leaving it a month. I'm too impatient. But there we go. It's
what is your plan for this tank though?
LPS.
So it's gonna be an LPS tank.
So it'll be the Fluval, an extension of the Fluval Evo, which was always going to be an LPS nano tank, and this is just. I'll have a few more fish in there because it's 2-3 times the size of the Fluval Evo, 2.5 times maybe. But it's going to be LPS almost exclusively, apart from a bit GSP. Lucas says 5x5x5 equals 125 liters, but dimensions of a tank are never quite right. So it says it's 50 centimeters that way, side to side, but that's from the outside of the glass. So actually the area of water is smaller, and you can see it doesn't go right up to the very top of the glass. It goes up to like an inch before. So it's not possible to say exactly what the size is. But whenever you look at a tank like a Red Sea Reefer 250, They say it'll hold 250 litres or whatever on the blurb. It doesn't. Partly because you'd have to fill it to the brim to get it to hold that, which just is ridiculous. But also, once you've put in rock and all that sort of stuff, you're probably down to 180, 200. But even without rock, it's
what rocks are you doing?
Transferring over everything from the Evo. So that's man-made rock. I'll put some live rock in the sump, I suspect, proper live rock, and I might add a bit more rock because. I don't know. I might do. I don't. I've not really thought about it yet.
I just thought it'd look too not like there's not enough rock in there if you take it out of the fluval and just use that rock.
That's true, but I do like the idea. I don't want it to be completely rammed, so I like the idea of it having a little bit of space. But I think I think you're right. There'll be too much negative space. If I just transfer that over. So
and how long before you put an Achilles in?
Achilles tang. Oh, day one. There's one in there. There's one in there at the moment. He's just out of the way of the camera. It's only freshwater, but freshwater dip for 4 days. That'll be all right, won't it?
Yeah, true. It'll get anything off him.
It's all right. Don't worry.
It'll definitely kill any parasites. That's for sure.
Yeah. It's like, oh, it's dead. Well, the parasites are dead, so but no, there will be no tangs in there. There'll be urchins in there though.
Nice. So, well, I got 8. If you want one, they might be going spare.
Happy days. But there you go. So I've had a busy week, and it's been really good fun setting up that tank. Although I managed to chip it.
Oh my god! I've done that so many times with a brand new tank. Yeah.
It's tiny, and you can't see it. Like I can see it just about because I know it's there. But it was when I took it out of the crate. It was in my kitchen, so I slid it off and really gently rested it on my kitchen floor, which is like tile. Like slate, or like concrete, basically. So stone, and I rested it gently.
I know where this is going.
Just a tiny little, like a half-inch bit came off, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And I my first thought was, "Bloody bastards have sent me a tank with a chip in it." And then I realised because the bit of glass was on my kitchen floor, I was like, "Oh, that was because it was so." I rested it so gently, but I should have. I put all the other corners on polystyrene.
Yeah.
But the front corner, I was just like, I'll just rest it down. It'll be fine. And it was like,
tanks and tiled floors do not mix.
No.
Because one of the things, when you if people on the podcast won't see this, you didn't tell everyone about the podcast at the start of this video.
I've got stuff on that.
Yeah. When you turn them to tilt them back to get your fingers under it, it cracks the corners and the back of the tank.
That might have been what did it actually. But
it
doesn't matter. It doesn't affect it at all. It's only on the outside. It's not. There's no it's holding water on it. So it'll be fine. Yeah. It's just annoying. But hey, it doesn't matter
because you got this brand. I bet thousands of people have done that. I dropped a tank once. I dropped it was a secondhand tank. I dropped it on because it was wet. And it just slipped out of my fingers, and it would have only fallen probably maybe half a foot, and it landed on grass, and it didn't smash it.
One of my mates gave me a tank once. I was going to put little freshwater dwarf puffers in it, gave it to me, and I cracked it on day one. So I went out and bought another one off eBay because I couldn't bring myself to tell him broken his tank. And then my main tank, my Red Sea Peninsula 500, of course. Oh, hang on, let me just turn my screen off on that. There we go. My Red Sea Peninsula 500. I was moving that around. I was impatient. My mate was coming around to help me the next day, but I was just sliding the tank. It was on its end, tall ways. I was sliding it around my living room on a bit of cardboard, and I knocked was it a drill or an electric screwdriver? I can't remember. Knocked something off the kitchen table, onto the glass, onto the weir box, and it cracked. The weir box is glass, so it cracked the weir box. Brand new tank, almost £2,000. Cracked the weir box, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
That was you said the Red Sea one, wasn't you said?
Yeah,
was it? Yeah. It's funny because people don't hear about these stories.
I've made videos about
that. Oh no, I know what you mean, but as in this obviously is happening far more often than people realize.
Oh yeah, well that's the thing. That's 2 out of 6 tanks.
Yeah, the other thing that happens is you can get a cup. I got a cup or a glass sometimes to put fish food in, and I would never do this again. Never have a glass or cup for fish food. Have a little plastic pot if you want to do it. You know how you rest it on the core of the tank.
Yeah.
When I put it on there, they just chipped the top of the core. I was like, oh, for God's sake.
God. It's amazing how delicate they are.
They are. If you get the right section and you just happen to get the right angle at the right speed or whatever, it comes off so easy.
Oh, I'm glad it's not just me because I'm quite clumsy, to be fair.
Yeah. So I've got one of those barriers that you with a rope around
Yeah.
around the water box, so
Airport
no one can get
security.
too close to it.
Yeah. Got a guard there, stood there all day long.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also actually, I can't remember if I said last week, I'm getting salt creep on my
I saw
my
that.
main
Yeah.
tank. I've turned my power heads down. They were at 90%. They're MP40s.
Yeah.
They get quite noisy at 90% anyway, so I've turned them down to like 75, 80, something like that,
Yeah.
and that stopped it. But it's just annoying. I was thinking of phoning. There's a company near me, Aquarium Connections, tank builder. Vince is the guy.
Yeah, I
might have
know
heard of him.
Vince,
Yeah. I was thinking of phoning them and saying, look, could you build a brace, a Euro brace,
Yeah.
and then come and install it, because then that would stop the salt creep.
Yeah.
But
it's probably not that difficult to get made.
no, and it probably won't be that expensive. It'll be, if anything, it'll be such a small job they won't want to do it. But
yeah, that's the problem. But you could put, I don't know. If you get it wrong, it will look proper ugly. You need someone proper to do it.
That's the thing. I wouldn't do it myself. And the other thing is, because I've got a custom made lid.
Yeah,
that would then be that would be sitting on top of the Euro brace. So it would look unless I sunk the Euro brace down a few millimeters. So one way or the other, it would look a bit.
It would look
messy.
odd.
And I could replace the lid, but it was a lot of money, so I don't really want to do that. So. But anyway, so there we go. So that's so new tank. Exciting times. What I tried to do is, those little Lego yellow tangs I've got.
Yes, yeah.
I tried to put them in there so they just sat at the bottom.
Yeah,
but they float.
I was going to say, do they float?
I was trying to weigh them down, but they float a lot.
Yeah.
So maybe for Friday's video, I'll have figured.
You should have just had them all floating around.
I know, yeah, just dead.
Yeah. If you stuck them to each other, would they float on? I know, because that was a stupid question.
They're
probably all equally buoyant.
That was exactly. It's annoying. But yeah, there we go. So didn't realize Alex had realized that having new box sat behind Alex. Right, I think he's talking about the tank.
He's talking about the tank. Yeah. The other thing that you've taken down, you've taken down the clownfish picture.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I like that picture.
Yeah. Why do you like it?
No, I just like it.
Oh, really? Okay. Because it's still. So I've still got this one here, of course, a Scully.
Yeah.
But the clownfish won't. It won't. Obviously, there's no space for it there, so I might bring it back. But I don't know. Well, I've still got it.
Yeah. It just looks like there's something missing in your background now.
I like it a bit more simple though. I like it that there's not so much stuff there.
Once you've got fish and coral in the tank, I suppose it'll add to the background.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's cool. That's a bit better. But anyway, so that is the chat. Just how we're getting on, and now we're going to move on to Facebook questions and member questions. Starting, of course, with member questions, which I did load up before we started the stream. Yeah. But then I had Wi-Fi problems, so I had to reset my computer. And I've forgotten to load it back up again.
You want to be professional, do you? And you're going to do it now. I got a question for you. What was all this live stream, midweek live stream? Wasn't even invited. I was like,
I know.
It's like Ant and Dec, but like just one of them turns up.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, I know. A Tuesday night, and my missus was away.
Yeah,
and I was like, because it was a week when I'm not making a video. Look at your face. And I was like, I was a bit bored. I didn't want to start making my next video. I couldn't be asked, basically. Yeah. Sometimes you're just not in the right mood for it. You've got to be in the mood for
every week for me.
Exactly. But I was just like, do you know what? I'm gonna have a live stream. And the plan was like half an hour, and it became an hour and a quarter. But,
I actually, to be fair, I think I actually watched most of it.
Really?
Yeah, because obviously I don't ever watch any live streams, but I was just judging you from afar.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, he's just giving all this information out. I was like, no, that's wrong. That's
wrong. Give it like a 2 out of 10.
I was the one who clicked the dislike button on it.
Yeah, that was you, was it? Right, 99% it was. I'd say.
No, I actually genuinely, I quite enjoyed it. I can't remember what I was doing. I was doing something, and it was in the background. Obviously, I wouldn't give you my full attention. Of course not.
Outrageous. What you mean is you sat Marina down. You're like, listen to this. Now you're going to learn something.
No, Marina wasn't here. But she's here now. She's listening. She's upstairs listening. So,
bonjour, Marina.
There you go.
But anyway, that has passed the time whilst I load the questions. So first up is, and this is member questions. Hello, members. First one is from Tom. Evening, both. Hope you're well. On the topic of the subject, I wanted the Red Sea Reefer 170, but then saw the 200 was only an extra 100 quid more. Is larger always better, or is this upgrade pointless? I know you could always jump to the 250, but I know the missus won't notice the extra 200 over the 170. Well, you've got the opinion that bigger is always better.
Bigger is always better.
We'll come on to that when we get.
We will come on to it. That doesn't always apply. There is a very specific set of dimensions, but we'll cover that later.
But so on that, I really like the of all of the Red Sea tanks. I've never liked like the Red Sea Reefer 250, 350, and 450. I don't really like if they're only 18 inches front to back, I think, and it makes for a slightly awkward scape because it's got to be quite a steep angle. They're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. But I just much prefer 2 foot front to back. It gives you a much more gentle and more natural looking scape. It doesn't mean that you can't.
If you don't know any better.
Oh, exactly.
So this is your first tank. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know that it was steep if you see it. You only know that because you've had other tanks.
Exactly, and it doesn't mean that you can't have a nice tank. They're still really nice. It's just when you've gone a bit wider front to back, it's so much better. And I don't really like the 170, 250, 350, 450, but I really like the 200, 300, 45, and so on. The ones, the XL ones. They're all 2 foot or 55 centimeters. I think they are, so 22 inches front to back. Yeah. But it makes such a difference, and that was part of the reason I got mine, because I think it's an extra inch front to back, something like that over the 45. But front it's well worth the upgrade, I would say. Absolutely well worth it. Your scape will look much better. Even you have a little bit more room for your fish to swim, although that's pretty insignificant. But the scape will look much better.
When you're considering a tank, does the sump play into that? Like the design of the sump play into your choice? Because it's like massive for me.
It does. It's not a deal breaker. I think water box sumps aren't as good as Red Sea sumps because I like the layout.
What?
I really like the layout because you like it going one end and out the other.
One end and out the other end. Yeah, simple. Whereas because then you can get to everything, easy to get to. Yes, there is some space which is wasted a little bit.
But that's exactly the point. So it's much easier to access everything with it when it's one side to the other, like water box. But with the Red Sea, it's cut into squares basically.
Yeah.
And that means that you don't have to have your protein skimmer one way. You can have it whichever way you want. If you've got like a rectangles in your sump, your skimmer will only go in one way. Your return pump will only go in one way. And sometimes it just makes moving it around a little bit more awkward, or placement. It's not really.
No, I got the feeling that we're going to go to war on this live stream because I disagree so much. I actually didn't like the sump, that sump design. I've had a few different tanks, and the ones I love the most are the ones where it's water goes in one end, comes out the other. Because you can also move. It's in like a little. When they're like squares, you don't have a lot of room to move the equipment around, even if you want to turn it or anything. Whereas I think
you get more, because if they're rectangles, they're long and thin rather than wide.
I know what you're saying. I think so, if you think about it, though, obviously I'm dealing with a 1,000-liter tank, so they're not small rectangles; they're like massive rectangles.
Right. Yeah. Oh, for sure. In that case. Yeah, I get that. On a much bigger tank when you've got a load of space. But if you've got smaller tank, 4 foot or less, I think the squares are a better design.
Yeah,
but there's pros and cons.
So. Yes, I never had a smaller tank where it uses the rectangle. So to some extent, you're probably correct. I just think I just like having a bigger tank.
Yeah, this is very true. And then the second question is from Gouldy39. Hi guys, I'm looking to making water changes easier on my Waterbox 180.5. That's the first off. That's the way to do it. Is don't try to avoid water changes. Try to find ways to make them easier.
Yeah.
I have a big tank as well, 5 foot, 180 gallons. I have an Apex and a DOS that I was going to use to automate it, but I have lately been wondering about using my spare return pumps and running a large water line to and from the tank to simply pump water out and fresh back in, newly mixed. I think he means not fresh water.
Yeah.
Weekly instead. This would save calibration and fail-safe setups. What are your thoughts on either setups? And also, where did you buy your tanks from, Ryan? Well, so first thing, so where did you buy your tanks? I think he must mean because obviously water. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember where I got them from.
Clear Seal.
I think yes, it was. It was them. There was a problem with the tanks. So I'm not going to. I'm not going to. They just there was a problem with the dry weir sumps. Basically, to be fair, they did come out and repair them, but I think they need to be repaired like 3 or 4 times. They came out, and obviously there's 8 tanks. So, but every single tank had the same problem. And it was where the MP. I never like to talk negative about anyone, like if you see what I mean. So but I'm just telling you, the MP40 section, which was meant to be dry, so that obviously that's the dry side. It leaked on every single tank, except for I think the last one, which they finally mastered.
Right. Okay.
But to be fair, look, they're actually one of the leading or biggest tank manufacturers, I think, in England, and. Really? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're the biggest one, or one of the biggest ones. And the design of those systems is not a normal tank. Normally, you just have a weir box, don't you? You don't have the 2 dry compartments. So it was an unusual design, to be fair. And the tanks were a weird height and a weird length, and because they're not like 120 centimeters, they're like 164 centimeters or something random.
Yeah,
because I wanted to absolutely maximize the space. So. In terms of accuracy, they did pretty good. It was just, as I said, they leak. But they did leak, but they did come out and fix them. And that's...
My first ever tank was a Clear Seal Reef Space.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. They used to... I don't think they make them anymore. But there's a short answer, is Clear Seal is where on. But in terms of this automatic water change setup, doing it with return pumps, that's not automating it, because you have to be there because they're not accurate enough. Because if you turn one on, you can't tell it to pump 50 liters. It won't do it accurately enough. So you would have, that's just a manual water change effectively, because you have to be there to watch it to make sure it gets to the right point. Whereas if you're using the DOS, same as you will be doing with your GHL, you just press a button and it does it. And as long as you got water in the new salt water bin, you're all right. And
where are you, the water you're taking out, if you're using a return pump, like where are you taking that water from? Because in theory, you want to take that water from the main display tank, if you think about it, and then put the fresh water back into the sump.
Okay.
Yeah. Only because otherwise the pump will run dry. The sump will only have like this much water in it. So in theory, as I said, I haven't put a lot of thought into this, but I think the DOS is a better way than using the return pumps.
I agree. And he's also asking about RO water. So I presume you've got an RO water vat and you want to pump it to your RO top off. In which case, I don't know.
I wouldn't mind. Like, if you've got a return pump that can pump the RO water, there's no problem with that, because you'll just turn that on once a week or twice a week, and it's not. But again, it's not really automated.
It'll take 5 minutes whilst you've got to stand there for 5 minutes
and watch it. And this is what will happen. You'll go and make a cup of tea, or you'll go get distracted by something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that 600-liter vat of water you've got that's pumping it out from will then be on your kitchen floor.
And your door will knock, and your neighbour will be like, "Can I just show you my garden?" You'll come back half an hour later, and your entire house is underwater.
Yeah, that's true. So that might not be a good idea. That'll be far worse than leaving your RO unit on, if you think about it.
Yeah, indeed. But basically, the short answer is use the DOS.
Yeah,
the DOS dose. So that's all the member questions, and now we're going to go on to the Prestige Reef Dork Show Facebook group. First off, actually, you mentioned the podcast. So if you don't know, this live stream is available as an audio podcast. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, you can get this podcast. Although 99% of you use it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google. It hit 5,000 downloads this week.
Did it?
5,000, yeah.
That's insane.
All right. It's not bad, is it? So it is. I've not checked the stats, but I'm pretty safe. I think it's safe to say it is the #1 podcast in the saltwater aquarium.
That is crazy.
World, which it probably isn't, but that's not the point. But yeah, there you go. So you can listen to it as a podcast. It's a weird. Have you ever listened to this back as a podcast?
No. It's
a totally different experience. It's weird. I kind of like it.
Should I just close my eyes for the rest of the stream and just see how I feel?
I mean, it's getting a bit creepy now, but but it's actually I quite like it. So anyway, you can listen to it on your commute to work. Two dickheads talking about fish.
My commute to work. What you mean from my bed to the coral farm in the garage?
You. Yeah, that's true. That's a 5-second walk.
That's a very short. Yeah.
It's going to take you 6 months to get through one podcast. But
Yeah.
anyway, but yeah. So that yeah. Anyway, the Prestige Reef Dork Show Facebook page is what we're going to go to now. And if you're not on the Prestige Reef Dork Show Facebook page, you should be, because it's just wicked. It's just, and I changed the description the other day to a friendly group for friendly people or something like that, because it's just such a nice group and people just hang out and chat about fish. And I've had so many people as well tell me, oh, I'm on that group. It's just so nice. Everyone just chats about fish and it's nice. It's just,
I don't know what it is. There's just a different feeling, isn't there? About,
yeah, it's wicked.
I do look at it occasionally. Like, well, when I say occasionally, every day I'll have a flick through it. I've not seen one arsehole, basically. I've not seen one person.
Well, you've seen me there, so
well, other than you, of course. But I've not seen one person where someone's asked a question which might be considered a beginner question to some people, and other people have jumped on them. I've not seen. You see it all the time elsewhere.
Oh, completely, yeah.
But I've not seen a single time that happened. And as you said, it might be because the group's only got 800 people. But 800 people is a lot of people. There's plenty of assholes in 800 people.
But there you go. But so join the page. It's good. It's a nice page. So there's a few things that I wanted to pull up. First off was this. Share screen, share.
Oh, this is not going well, is it?
Second screen, share. God, it's just the admin on this bloody software. Anyway, so the first thing I wanted to pull up was this wrasse. Don't know what wrasse it is actually. He's quite a cool wrasse. Let's see if anyone's identified him in the comments. No. So I don't know what they. Sorry.
I don't want to say something stupid, but I have a feeling I might know what it is. But...
It looks like a Halichories wrasse of some kind. But that's about as much as I'm going to stick my neck out on.
I'm not going to say what it is. No, it's not what I thought it was.
Okay.
I'm Googling it.
Tom, if you know what it is, post in the chat if you're watching.
That's it. Yeah, I think it's a Timor. That's the one.
Timori wrasse. Yeah, Timor wrasse. Timor wrasse.
Yeah, is it? I know I've seen it before.
Very nice. Okay, but yeah, so Halichories timori or whatever, I don't know. But they're cool wrasse. But anyway, so first thing, nice fish. Second thing, he said he's dug himself into the sand straight away, and I haven't seen him since. How long before I start to panic? Immediately hit the panic button now. And that's it's because wrasses are funny because they just disappear in the sand, sometimes for weeks.
Yeah,
and I've had them before where, like peacock wrasse in particular, I've had them. I've been like, he's dead. I haven't seen him for about a month. There's no way he's alive. But they're probably coming out at night and eating copepods or something. So how long? And it's a thing though. They'll disappear, and you're like, that's cool. I've read online. I know they're going to do that. That's fine. You come back the next day, they're not there, and you're like, that's weird. And then you come back the next day, and you're like, oh, okay. I suppose he's still sleeping, maybe. And then you come back a week later, and you haven't seen him, and you start to think like, what's the point of this hobby, you know?
Yeah.
But
I've had a wrasse that disappeared for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then turned up, as I said, 2 weeks later, much thinner than it was before.
Right,
Obviously, it's not eaten for the last 2 weeks. And the reason for that was one of the other wrasse was bullying it. But I didn't know or see this because you put the wrasse in, and then it just disappeared. It was only when it was coming out, when it obviously was like reached the time where it was starving. It was like, right, I need to go get something to eat. Then you see the other wrasse just pound it immediately.
I hate that.
So that might be happening. And if not, if a wrasse is missing, check under and around, everywhere around your tank. And if you've got a lid, it's fine. It'll be fine. It might also be in your weir. So I don't know what tank this person has, but trust me, you find wrasse in the weir all the time. And they'll live in the weir for bloody ages because food goes over the weir. And then 6 months' time, you've not seen this wrasse. And then all of a sudden you see it and you're like, oh, there it is.
You've been in solitary confinement for 6 months.
Yeah.
But it's really common for them to disappear for a week or two. Doesn't necessarily mean there's a problem. Going around looking in your weir box, looking in your sump pool, these sorts of things is a good idea.
Yeah.
Disturbing the sand to try to push them out is not a good idea. And I've done that before.
Yeah.
I've been like, come on, mate, get out. And then it just stresses them out.
I've literally had one on the filter floss where it's gone over the weir, lived in the weir box, and then gone down the weir into the filter floss. Still alive. It's just in that little bit of water. And I found it and then put it back in the tank.
That's cool. But the other thing, actually, that's reminding me, the other thing that happened this week, when I moved my Fluval Evo from there, I found a goby
Oh, do you?
that had gone missing, and
Yeah.
I've got a tight fitting lid, but apparently not tight fitting enough. There are a
Yeah.
couple of holes for wires for the power
Yeah.
heads, so he must have jumped out of there. So I found him crispy. He'd
Yeah.
been dead for a long time.
Yeah.
And my cat went in and started eating him before I could pick it up.
Oh, nice.
Disgusting animal.
That cat's probably smelt that for last 3 or 4 months.
At last.
I'm gonna get that treat one day.
2-month-old that stale fish. Wicked. But anyway, cool fish, cool wrasse, Timor's wrasse, apparently. The second question was from James Quinton, who says, question time. I really like this question. If you had the choice to keep just one coral, what would it be and why?
Yeah, I saw that.
You can only have one coral, Ryan.
I would have probably a frog spawn. Is it? Do I get multiple colors of this one coral?
No.
Well, I can only have just one coral.
Literally one coral.
If it's literally just one coral, then I'd probably go for an entire tank of that gold Bernardapora, because it's a bright, cool color. Yeah. Like, and it gives movement. It's not overly long. That's the problem, because a Goniapora will probably be better. Les would go for Tropic Thunder, as you can see.
Tropic Thunder, Les, get out.
But if I could have a species, I would go for frog spawns, because you can get loads of different colors of them. They're easier than torches, and they grow fast.
That's the point. So I was going to say gonnies, but that's a species, isn't it? That's not a single gonny.
Oh, so one rule for me, one rule for you, eh?
Okay, I'll tell you, I'll narrow it down. I've got a pink gonny with yellow eyes, and they're not actually eyes, but they look like, so a pink and yellow gonny. That's probably the one I'd have, because then it's loads of movement. It would get quite big. Because if you just had one SPS gonny, it'd just be sat there looking like a pet rock, and it's like
what I will tell you though is, no matter what, actually an SPS coral probably would have been a good choice, because you just have one massive Acropora.
If it was something if it was something like a staghorn.
Yeah,
like a barley green slimer, they get like massive branches. That might be quite cool, actually. But maybe to be fair, if you had like a 3-foot strawberry shortcake, that would be cool as well. To be fair,
I think anything that if you're not allowed to change the color, it's just one type. Whatever it is, I guarantee you'll get bored of it. It doesn't matter if it's Xenia. It doesn't matter if it's one. Just if it the thing
Xenia.
that. Because actually, that's not a bad shout.
It's not a bad shout, is it? Because it doesn't matter if it's breads.
Exactly. But I just think anything, like, you don't like Tropic Thunder because it gets out of control. Anything which gets out of control, which is what it would be in a tank of just that one coral, is boring. Yeah. So what makes our tanks interesting is the diversity.
Oh, completely. There's so much variety. But I just like the question.
There you go.
And then the next one is from Brad Barrington, who says he's looking for some info on removing Asterinas. Why are you asking me? What are you trying to say?
You're the one who's given them to bloody everyone.
I'm the UK's leading exporter of Asterina starfish. He said he's thought about harlequin shrimp. Don't do it. But I feel it would not survive long term. It would not, due to my fish eating it. Well, and because it will starve. Yeah. Apart from constant manual removal, do they have anything else that will eat them? So 2 things on this. One, someone in the chat said, in the reply said that bumblebee shrimp can eat Asterina starfish. They don't. They eat some starfish. They eat the tube feet of starfish. So a normal star, if you've got like a what they call the sand sifting stars or whatever, or a normal starfish,
or Fromia,
exactly, not a brittle star, a normal sandfish. Starfish, they will eat their feet, weirdly, like a foot fetish thing, but they don't eat Asterinas, and they don't eat the feet of Asterinas either. But they're cool critters. They just won't sort your Asterina problem out. But manual removal is the way to go, I'm afraid. It's really just go down in the morning, first thing in the morning, like 7-8 o'clock. They'll be all over your glass, and just pull them out, and just do that 6-7 days in a row.
I've improved that technique. I tried that technique, and then when you try and pull them out, some of them fall off the glass, and they're difficult to like pull out of because if you've got a lid, you've got to try and get them off the glass. What I do, there's little pots I sell coral in. So everyone go and buy a coral so you can get one of these pots. I literally will put that on the glass and then move it along and just go over each one. And as you go over it, it knocks the last one off, and then it collects all of them into the pot. And you can get rid of like 100 of them in like probably 3 minutes.
I can go one better than that even.
I saw something like this. Yeah,
This is if you either need a 3D printer or anyone who's got a 3D printer can make these. So there are services online that print stuff. You just send them the file that you can get from this website. So if you go onto a website called Thingiverse, type in Astorino, it will come up with this, and you can someone will print this for £5 for you. And it's got a really narrow the bit along the front is a really thin front edge, and you can just put it in your tank and scoop it up off the glass, and it's got the water will come out the bottom. The Astorinos will be stuck in there. I have one of those, and they're really good. And if you do that 5 days in a row, I know it's a manual removal, it's a pain in the backside, but you'll make a massive dent.
Far quicker than a harlequin shrimp.
Yeah, 1,000 times quicker than a harlequin. They take months to have an impact. And the trouble is, it means you'll have to do it again in 6 months' time. But that's the way life is. Even if you had a couple, even if you put 10 harlequin shrimp in, they wouldn't kill them all. There'd be someone that would escape between the cracks in the rocks, and then when the harlequin shrimp died, they'd come back, or they'd be in the sump. Or
it comes down to our own laziness, because on the first day you'll get loads of them, and then the next day you get a few less, and then there's a diminished return. So it feels good when you get 100 of them, but to do the same amount of effort to get 5 of them, if you just, no matter what you go, if I see an Astorino, I'm removing it. It doesn't matter how long it takes me to do. Eventually, they're not magic. Eventually, you have to get them all. But when there's just one in there, you can't be bothered.
No, but it's just a lot of effort, isn't it? And you don't you can do that for a couple of days, and then you're like, oh god.
Yeah, it's the same with anything. If you ever when you're like manually dosing something, you're like, oh yeah, I'll just increase my KH, and then you put it the first day. And then the next day, and then on the third day, you're like, oh, I forgot that day. I'll just put, fourth day.
Tomorrow. And then, tomorrow becomes 6 weeks' time. And, yeah, exactly. And then the final thing, anyway, on the Prestige Reef Dork Show group was from Stuart Gibson, who says, I know that dinos can be beaten by more flow, less feeding, and less lighting. Which I thought, not sure about that. But is there anything out there that eats it?
Are these thinking, it might be thinking about cyano, because that's, No, actually, no, that's not right.
Possibly. So cyano.
You said more flow. That was what I was thinking.
More flow. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. But I think he's talking about dinoflagellates, I think. Yeah. But more flow won't, unless you've got more flow than you can possibly imagine. Flow won't do anything for dinos.
Yeah.
And what else? With less feeding, less lighting, probably not really, to be honest. But you need to balance. Your nutrients are probably dropped to zero. So you want to get that back up to a sensible level before you start anything. And then the first thing to try is a UV sterilizer, drawing from the display tank and putting it back into the display tank. There are some times of dinos that won't be affected by that. But when I've had it, that has worked. 2 times I've had dinos and it's worked both times.
Yeah.
And then if that doesn't work, go on to Max Dino Flagellate support group on Facebook, because they know their stuff. And they know much more than I do. But UV is very effective at it, as long as you get very low flow. You want low flow. But yeah, so there you go. And the last thing, actually, there was one last thing on the Facebook group, and that was the coolest fish I've seen on the group since it started.
Oh, you're bigging it up. I don't think I've seen this. Oh, that's not the coolest fish.
Puffer. It's a puffer fish. Oh, he's gone. But Puff, I love that guy, little Toby Puffer.
No, if it was a jewel puffer, I'd go, yeah.
Cool Look at him.
Hoping to see some interesting, cool fish.
That's what could be cooler or more interesting than that?
Most fish.
There is an empty clamshell in the back, just below, just off camera now, just down. And I was like, I wonder if that used to be a Dorasa clam or something. It was not a Dorasa, but whatever it was. I wonder if that got eaten by the puffer. But he's got a few corals in there with the puffer, to be fair, hasn't he? Yeah. An anemone, all right.
Xenia, that will outlast the puffer.
Cockroaches and a nuclear holocaust. But I just love those guys. They're just so cool. I'd love one, but I like other stuff too much that would be incompatible. But there we go. So that is the I've just realised something else as well. That is the Facebook chat, which means we are on to the Prestige Reef Fish of the Week.
Fish of the Week?
Yes.
So I actually do try and put some effort into this to try and find fish which are... I don't want to just go Flame Angel or things like that, because everyone...
You woke up last week and you were like, Marina, name a fish.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Goldfish.
That was 2 weeks ago, and then last week I didn't even... I picked on the spot, didn't I? So anyway, so while I was out for a walk today, you know, pondering what fish to have this, I came up with coral croucher.
Bosh.
Oh, you picked the boring picture. They're way nicer than that. Oh, it feels like the good old days.
That's the one you sent me.
No, I sent the one. I sent a red. It's where it's pink. It's funny. We're back to the old days where I was saying that you're not putting quality pictures up.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, see, much nicer. Yep. See, nice pink red fish. Right, they're just interesting. They sort of sit there. They're relatively reef safe because they're tiny. They will probably eat things like sexy shrimp and stuff like that, but they're pretty small. And they've got like the reason I like them was because they got this cool attitude where they look like a grumpy old man. And that's similar to a frogfish, but frogfish will literally eat everything.
Yeah, anything they can fit in their mouth.
Yeah, whereas these are a bit smaller. The downside with them, you don't see them that often once you put them in. They usually disappear.
Oh, really?
And you're more likely to see them at night. I also think, I'm sure they have another name, like Madagascar coral cruncher or something, rather than croucher. It's something like that. Which I just thought, that's a cool name, cruncher.
Yeah, I don't like the sound of that though. But they're
just doesn't need coral. I think it's just because it's got a big mouth.
Reef safe. Where does it say reef safe? Temperament, care level, carnivore. Why does it say reef safe? For heaven's sake.
They don't want people to know.
Yeah, because it's going to be everything. Oh, okay. So it can sting you. It's venomous. Huh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But they're cool. I really like them. Yeah, they're tiny little things. This says it goes up to 2 inches. I've seen a couple in the shops, but they were tiny.
They're usually like under an inch.
Yeah, minute. But that's a
cool
cool
fish
fish.
you could put in a nano tank.
Yeah, sort of fish I could put in a Cade S500 nano.
True.
In fact, so
but in a big tank they'll get lost. There is something about having small fish in a small tank. If you put that fish in in the Red Sea tank, the water box tank, you'll never see it. I think that was blasphemy. Calling it the Red Sea tank.
I like having small fish in a big tank though.
No. We have very different tastes in fish, I think.
I'd like, so not necessarily tiny fish, but I think if you've got loads of like wrasse size fish, in a 5-foot tank, I think that looks cool. But
I think it looks odd. I think the only fish I would have that would be antheas, where the small fish.
Yeah.
I think if you've got loads and loads of wrasse all swimming around, it makes the tank look too busy. Yeah,
I suppose so. Okay, fair enough.
Because some fish can make a tank look weirdly busy. Yeah. Like I've got a jewel tang, and it's like it darts around all over the place, and I just think it's just in the coral farm it's fine. In a normal tank, it would look so odd.
To stress you out.
Well, it moves like 4 times as fast as any of the other fish.
Right.
So that's why I might put it in the water box, but we'll see.
Fair enough. Well, either way, the coral croucher is the Prestige Reef Fish of the Week, and the Prestige Reef Coral of the Week is.
I'm going for a Fascination Favia. Just thought it was a nice coral.
Bosh.
It adds quite a good. Nothing's quite like it when you're in the tank in the coral farm. It stands out amongst the other corals. So some corals definitely stand out more than others. You've got one as well, haven't you?
I have.
If you've got that, remember you used to have that thing with the camera where you can move it around the live stream.
Yeah, but it's in a tank that's about 8 feet away, and I'd have to go and stand by it, and I've got my headphones in and blah blah blah.
When the picture will just work. But yeah, this is one of those corals which like glows from a long way away. You know how you say about the jack-o'-lantern, Leptoceras, that like glows when you look at it. And I just thought they're not that popular of a coral, Favias. You see, I think they're more popular in America. You don't see massive amounts of them over here. And this is a much nicer one than most of them. I've seen red, but generally speaking, yeah. So I just thought.
What colour are the ones that you've got? Are they this kind of colour? Orange, green and red?
I actually have 2 different types. One of them is the very first small picture. And the other one looks on that one. And the other one looks like the one on the very right. Down, that one. Now they are the same coral, even in that, because I looked at that forum earlier. That one's changed color, so they do change color.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say, because I've got them in. In fact, I think I've got one in each of my tanks. It's the exact same coral. It started out, I just let it base out, and then I took it out and fragged it, and I put one in each 3 tank. I don't actually know why. I'm thinking about it, but anyway, in one tank, and the parameters are fairly similar. So I don't think it's water, but who knows? In one tank, it's completely orange.
Yeah.
In the other tank, it's completely green.
Yeah.
And in my third tank, it's the nice mix of orange, green, and red.
Yeah.
So
So I've got two of them right next to each other. And I'm like,
yeah.
why is one of them this color and one of them this color?
That's interesting. That's right next to each other as well.
Yeah, they're literally.
But is that from because these three are from the exact same original coral?
No, I don't.
Yours...
I don't think they're from the same colony.
Right,
But they did both look the same originally when they went in. So it's one of those things where, see, sometimes with the coral farm, I've got like 5 or 6 pieces of that, but I can't put on the website because it doesn't look like the picture on the website, even though I know it's exactly the same coral. And the chances are, if it goes in someone else's tank, it will either go to the right color, or if they put it in their tank, it will go the wrong color. If you and it will stay the wrong color.
Yeah.
But I can't sell it because it doesn't look like what it meant to look like.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's funny because but it's weird. I've never seen a coral go into just such different colors. When you put it in different tanks, and just.
I took one of the there's a couple of little Millipora frags in the water box. I took the colony of that out and put that into the water box as well now. Okay. And the colors between the colony and the frags are so different because obviously the water box got hardly any nutrients in it.
Yeah. Is it looking nice?
Yeah, they look. I'm not sure if you like the sort of pastel colors.
Like KZ,
that's what it looks like because it's very, very low nutrients.
What's it called? What's that method where you got the rocks that you pump? Zeovit, that's it.
Yeah,
the pastel. I like that a lot.
Yeah, so the ones it doesn't look like that. Those are the ones that have been in the tank for a while. The new ones don't. I'm seeing how long it will take because it's definitely obviously the same colony for them to turn to look the same as the other ones. Mm-hmm. And is it a week? Is it a month? And it'll be interesting to see how long it takes for them to change.
Well, so I bought a load of frags from Signature Frags, the UK's #2 coral selling.
No, now you're definitely in for trouble.
But they were, I don't know, 6 months ago, something like that.
Yeah.
And half of them look the same as they did the day I bought them. The other half have all changed color because my water quality isn't as nice as his. Yeah. And it took a little bit of time for them to fade out. But I'm wondering how long. I think some of them might not get back because I'm probably going to have too high phosphate. But I'm wondering if I've had it before where 6 months, a year down the line, they recover and they're like, oh, I'm used to this water now. I'm used to these lights. Well, obviously, I change my lights more often than that. But then they start to look really good. So I'm wondering, I'm hoping that in 6 months, a year's time, they'll start to look, I mean, they still look nice, but they'll start to look really like they'll bed in or whatever. But it's funny, it can take a long time.
I've never seen a coral change in colour as much as the one I got from you. Do you remember that? It was an Oregon.
Yeah.
And for you, it was completely blue, wasn't it? There was no green on it.
Specks of green, maybe.
It was like hardly anything. And it's now, I've got one little piece of it left. It's the brightest green colour with blue tips.
So funny. And that was quick. That was a few weeks, maybe.
Yeah, it happened really quick, didn't it?
Yeah.
So, but I've only got a tiny bit of it left now. I'm going to put that in the water box tank.
It looked, so when I first got it, it had like creamy tips as well, like almost white colored tips, but not like just growth tips. It just looked really nice.
Yeah.
And then over time they sort of faded and it was just blue. It was still a really nice color coral.
So it's a bit risky buying corals, isn't it? Because you might get something that's completely, it will look like it looks on day one. 2 weeks later, it can be a completely different color.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just, but that's the beauty of it. Because then the thing is, though, you end up, I don't know if you do this, you end up thinking like, hang on, I know what that looked like when I bought it. Yeah. So I'm going to do everything in my power to change my water, my light, my flow, everything to get it back. And then in the meantime, all your other corals are like, mate, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
But you've got this one coral and you want to get a bit of pink back out of it.
Yeah. No, so I know. Yeah. I've got an acro in the coral farm, which is definitely not the right color. It's like a purpley color, but it's clearly like, where it's got too much nutrients, so it's not happy. But it's grown massive compared to when I first got it. So it's growing, but it's not the right color. So now that it's big, I want to move it over just an experiment, just to see what will it change really dramatically into something completely different. Yeah, and then it'll be one of those 200-pound frags again now, which I'd forgotten I had from ages ago. That's now grown into a brown colony, basically. I just need to get it back to the nice color.
That's cool. A couple of things I'm going to pull out from the chat. Where was it? Oh, it's disappeared. Oh, yeah. First off, Reef Keepers Archive says, I think Oh, if I place that Leptastria near a ledge, will it grow out or vertically? Oh, sorry, that's not the question I thought it was. Leptastria will grow vertically as long as there's light there. It'll grow vertically. It'll cover any surface of rock it's on, basically.
It'll even grow a little bit into a cave. They're one of the corals where sometimes they'll grow. It obviously doesn't grow in the cave, but it will cover the whole area. Where it's even with minimal light.
My Sunset Monty's doing that. It's growing like where there's to the eye there's not much light at all.
Yeah.
And it's just, this thing is not enormous. Like it's you can see it from space basically. And it's like, can you just stop growing, please? Just
Cephastrias do it all the time. You pull out a frag plug of Cephastria, and it's grown completely under the plug and down the stalk, and you're like,
a really dark color as well.
Well, so it's like, how is that even possible? Because the frag plug's up against the frag rack.
Life finds a way.
Yeah.
Oh, and hello, this guy's getting a shout out. Rich564 is running late because he's tuning in from a ship in Alaska.
Wow,
which is pretty cool.
That's commitment.
Yeah, that's impressive. Cool, well done. Hello, welcome.
Are you one of those people collecting like those giant crabs? That's what I need to know.
Oh, yeah, like
those like
10-foot spider crabs or whatever.
Yeah, something like that. I think that's in Alaska.
Freaky they are. Haunt your dreams, they would. And the other thing, LG Auto Care says Christian is a coral god. This is signature frags. You should have done a video whilst you were there. I would kind of love to, because these corals will look awesome on video. But coral farm tours don't do very well, and
that's
it would take yeah, exactly. It would take a lot of time to make that video, and he's 6-hour round trip for me. But it would be cool. He's got some mint corals. If you've ever been on his website and thought, oh, I don't know if I should buy them or not, do it, because they're wicked. But anyway, so that is the Prestige Reef Fish of the Week and Coral of the Week, and I approve of both of them for once. Actually, that's good. So
there you go. Yeah, because normally you go meh when I send them to you.
Yeah, but I like both of those.
Yeah, I'll pick a tang next week, so I can things go back to normal.
Wind me up, basically. All right. Well, in that case, let's go on to the news.
I was dancing.
I could see you like muttering under your breath.
I forget that you can still see me when that comes up.
I know. Yeah. So the news is this. So firstly, Red Sea have uploaded the same video twice, which I find weird. Like they uploaded it on Thursday maybe, and then they uploaded it again today, I think accidentally. Let me see if they've taken it down. No, they've taken it down. No, they've got it up. This is so weird. Right, so first off, here we go. So this is a video on the left, Reefer Max aquarium systems. That is the exact same video as the one they uploaded 3 days ago. And it's like,
what's the video about?
It's about a new system, a new aquarium system. So basically, what they've done is they've made all of their. So at the moment, you can get the nano tank it's called a Max Nano, and it means it comes with a return pump, a skimmer, and a light. I think that's everything. And so they've done the same for all of their tanks now. So you can get any tank in the Red Sea range with the Red Sea light, the Red Sea Jaya, the Red Sea skimmer, the Red Sea reef mat.
Yeah,
and I think that's everything. But they just bundle it all together, and this came out on Thursday, I think, and I made a video about it on Thursday, like 2 hours after it was out, because I was like, that's quite cool. But it's bloody expensive.
I'm still trying to work out what's different. I'll be honest with you, I'm not even joking. I did zone out for about a minute there because you were talking about equipment. That's genuinely true. I asked the question, then did not listen.
You know when you buy a tank?
Yes.
What do you get normally?
A tank.
Correct.
Yes.
When you buy the Red Sea Max, they throw in light, flow, return pump, skimmer, filter.
Oh, so it's basically all they've done is combine all their products into one product, basically.
And you end up with like an 8% discount.
Oh, that's interesting.
But it means that you have to have all Red Sea stuff, which you might want, you might not want.
Yeah.
But either way, it's a thing, and that is new. That's literally what the purpose of the news is. But one thing, so the video I made on Thursday, whenever it was, every time people talk about Red Sea tanks, I got a couple of comments talking about tank splitting and all these sorts of things.
Yeah.
And anytime anybody talks about Red Sea, Facebook forums, YouTube, wherever, there's always someone talking about tank splitting and all that sort of stuff. And it's like they can't shake it. It's like I don't. We've talked about this 1,000 times, and we say the same thing every time. Basically, they probably have had tanks fail. Every company who's ever made a fish tank has probably had tanks fail. Is their failure rate any higher or lower than anyone else? Who knows?
It's the
Probably
same with
not.
anything. If you buy a BMW, a week later, your BMW might break down. It's unlikely, but it might. So, but no one's out there going, "Oh, BMWs will break down." But it's possible. You can buy a Bentley. There's like apparently I know someone who works as an engineer for Bentley. He goes, they break down just as much as any other car. So, but I know what you're saying. With Red Sea, there seems to be this like thing that's stuck to their their brand, and it just they sell so many tanks. They probably sell more tanks than everyone else, which is why they have more problems than everyone else. Yeah.
But it's funny because it's just I would have thought that would blow over. Because they did have, I think they did have a couple of issues 5 years ago with a couple of their biggest tanks that they then rectified.
Yes,
but that again, that might just have been a coincidence in terms of timing and stuff. But it's just people always mention it, and it's like okay, but it wouldn't put me off buying one, and it wouldn't put. I don't think it puts most people off buying one. But anyway. Red Sea brought out bundles, and it shows you like the tanks. The tanks are expensive, and the Reefer 170, which is slightly bigger than this one, so not a massive tank, $3,000, including all the equipment. And it's not like they've gone overkill and they've bundled in too much equipment, and it's like £3,000.
When I was doing a consultation with someone, I was doing a consultation with someone in Australia the other day. And he said, "Oh yeah, well we've set aside. I think he said $20,000.
Jesus,
for us. I think I'm pretty sure it was a 6-foot tank." And I was just like, "When did tanks start to cost $20,000?"
I know.
This I wouldn't say I don't know, but this is just a normal person. This isn't Polo's Reef. This is just a normal person that's gone, "I want to have a fish tank," and I looked into it. And it cost $20,000, which I think is probably
that's a good budget. That's a good way to look at it. But
but when did it get like so crazy?
That's my point. It's $3,000 for a 170 litre tank that's probably 140 litres after displacement, and that it's like that's a lot of money. And but that like if you were the Red Sea bundled all that stuff together, which is great. Actually, for the right person, for a newbie who doesn't know what size skimmer they should get and how many power heads, that's a really good way of doing it. I'm tempted at some point to make my own video, a small, a medium, and a large tank, and show what equipment I would get. You could save, especially getting some stuff secondhand. Because there are some things that are well worth getting secondhand, and you could fortune.
that video would be a good video for people to see, because that's one of the things I do on the consultations. People they go, which test kit do I use? Now this is just a perfect example. So Red Sea and Salafit both to have a nitrate test kit, which is easier to use than the Hannah one. But the Salafit one doesn't come with a glass vial. But it's also cheaper, and you don't need a glass vial. If you want a nice glass vial, pay the extra money. But if you don't, just get the Salafit one. But that experience doesn't. That you can only get that from years of experience.
When you try 5 different test kits.
So doing those would probably be very useful for people. If people will watch it, it's hard
to know.
That's
the thing. I don't think that. It's hard to predict what people watch. I don't think they'd be very popular.
There's only one thing that's guaranteed. You say things have gone wrong in my tank, people will watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like their favorite topic.
But it's also things would change all the time as well. I think. So if I made that video a year later, I might think, actually. I'd probably have this power head instead, but you could save an absolute fortune. But there you go. So $3,000 for a tank, for a fish tank.
But look, if you actually break it down, the lights would have cost. They're 1 or 2 lights for that. So the lights have there's a cost attached to a light, whatever light you use. Oh, why have you frozen?
Have I frozen? Well, I'm still
you've frozen. I'm like, am I still online, or are you still online?
Yeah, I think we're both all right. But so I'm not saying it's expensive and that it's a rip-off or whatever. I'm just saying it's expensive. And so things like, because my tank, my Red Sea Reefer Peninsula 500 cost, I think, $1,500, $1,700, something like that. And the 170 now costs what I think it was about $1,100. So not far off the price of that. But it's because the cost of a shipping container has gone up by like 1 million times. Everything, petrol, electricity, everything that makes logistics work has gone up. So suddenly everything is a lot more expensive, and it's massively expensive now. But
it will never come back down, I don't think either. Once once the tanks are being sold for that amount, they go, yeah, let's just. People are still buying them.
People get used to it. Exactly. It's like with things like petrol, where
Yeah.
there's loads of competition and everybody is a bit more wise and all that sort of stuff. It still doesn't come down that much.
No, I know.
And with something like aquarium, when there's only 10 people in the world who keep a fish tank,
Yeah.
yeah, Reef Dork will pay $1,000 for these lights, so sod him.
Yeah.
So they're not, it's not coming down, but it's expensive. But I would go for a 1-year-old tank, even a 1-year-old Red Sea tank.
Yeah.
Some people will be like, oh no, it's going to split, but it's not.
There's certain things that you do want to worry about when you're buying secondhand, but I've had loads of secondhand tanks.
I wouldn't buy like a 10-year-old tank of any manufacturer.
You want to look at the seam. Basically, if you look at the seam and it's like absolutely screwed, then don't buy it.
But if it's like a year old or something, because you get loads of people who quit the hobby after a year or 6 months or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's no way they can have ruined that tank in that, or very, very, very unlikely. And you will save a fortune because it's difficult. The bigger the tank, the harder it is to sell. So you will save a fortune buying a 6-month-old, a year-old tank secondhand. But anyway, you're looking quizzical, Ryan.
No, I was just reading I was reading the comment section, so that was all.
Anything you would like me to pull out?
No, nothing. I was actually, someone mentioned me, so that's why I was reading it.
Oh, okay.
It's nothing of interest.
Fair enough. Mark Thor says you guys should make a shopping list for different setup and get an affiliation with a shop or aquarium supplier. The only problem with that is if you get an affiliation with anyone that pays you a commission, all of a sudden you're incentivized to recommend a certain piece of equipment because of the money. So that's not, I like the idea, but anytime you're getting a commission, part of your mind, no matter how unbiased you try to be, is going to be like, oh, if I say you should buy a Radion, I'll get 50 quid out of this.
That's why I love the consultations, because I don't care what people
you don't
buy.
get any. Exactly,
I get nothing from it, and I don't care if I say like I prefer the Salafat thing because it's cheaper. It does the same as the Red Sea. I don't care if you buy a Red Sea one. That's up to you.
Yeah.
But
that's the way to do it, exactly. Because if you're incentivizing me to recommend a certain piece of equipment, even if it was like, even if I linked up with my local fish shop, Reef Keeper Moss End, and so they sell all sorts of equipment. They don't sell Tunsy. So does that mean now I'm going to be saying, well, I don't want to recommend Tunsy? But so I think anything with a financial incentive is a bad thing. But I do like the idea of
personal preference as well, because
this is true.
I'm very interested to see how you find that Radion, because you've obviously got a new Radion there, haven't you? And I'm interested because you don't have those on your main tank, and I think you didn't like them on your main tank.
I didn't like the Gen 4, no, but that was partly because I just didn't like it, but partly because I had it next to Kessel's, and it was the fact that it was two different. My tank looked like it was split into because the colours don't blend. So half of my tank looked one way, half the tank looked the other, and it just looked weird.
Yeah. Whereas I love the Radions. So
well, so the interesting thing, if I bought this tank and paid for it myself, I wouldn't have bought a Radion. But I'm glad that I've got one, because it's the best-selling light in the world. And I want to see what all the fuss is about. And all the BRS videos of the Gen 6 in particular make it sound incredible. So I'm actually quite looking forward to using it. I don't like the app. That's the one thing I will say straight off. I just don't like the app. When you've used the Reef,
I don't know why.
But when you use the Reef Factory app, everything else is awful. I'm not just saying that because they send me stuff for free, which they do. But it's when you go to using any other app, it's rubbish.
I have to come. When I have to come to your house soon, you can show me, because I'm just intrigued.
It's so good. But so I don't like the Radion app, Mobius. It's fine. It's just, and it's much better than what was the system before with the little box Reeflink. That was
I didn't have that.
And it's fine. Actually, there's some really useful features, to be fair. It's just I find it a little bit different, but whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But I'm really looking forward to seeing it because it's such a popular light as well.
Yeah,
they don't sell millions, they don't sell millions of light because they give them to shops or whatever, or worldwide corals. They don't sell them because of marketing. I'm sure that's part of it. But ultimately, you can market the hell out of something, and if it's a crap product, no one will buy it.
True.
So the reason people buy Radions is because it's a very good product. So I'm looking forward to that. But anyway, what was I going to say? Luck of the Dice says Reef Keeper Moss End is my local shop. It is also my local shop. I'm in there most weekends. Although I was in there on Friday this weekend. I'm normally in there Saturday or Sunday or both because I love it. They've got really good lately, actually. They're it's really good. I'd recommend you go there if you're within a reasonable distance. Okay, so that's the first thing on the news, which we've been talking about for like half an hour.
Right.
Second thing on the news, 52 weeks of reefing, Ryan.
Yes.
BRS TV. Season 2, which they've been talking about making
for ages.
the last 35 years.
Yeah.
Finally, they've given a date. 18th of August. Ryan, Bachelor, you've committed to this, so we're going to hold you to account. If you miss that date, we're on you.
He's a friend of mine on Facebook, just so you know.
Oh, friend.
Remember he added me.
Did he?
As he added, yeah. Do you remember I sent it to you? I was like, look, he added me.
BRS subscribed to me on YouTube.
I think they do mine as well.
Exactly, yeah. But I'm not friends with mine. Oh, I got it.
Wow.
But anyway, so I can't wait for that. 18th of August. I wouldn't be surprised if that got delayed, to be fair. But either way, it sounds like it's well underway and it's on the way. So I'm really excited for that.
When did it start, though? As in, did they start last August and they're just editing it all?
Oh, no, I don't know. They've probably been working on stuff for a long time.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just going to be cool to see. And it'll be a new video every week from the 18th of August. And it's BRS. Ryan is brilliant. He's very, very good at YouTube.
Yeah.
And he knows a lot about the hobby as well. So I'm looking forward to that. And we've got a date. That was the main thing.
There you go.
And the Reef Factory Smart Tester, Ryan, which I know you love because it's equipment.
Love it.
This is a device that tests one parameter at a time. But it's small. It's kind of, I don't know, how big is that? 6 inches, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's not as big as the other ones like the Mastertronic and those that test like 5 or 6 parameters. It's going to be a little bit expensive, 680 euros, I think, £600, something like that. But it's coming out. I saw on the Reef Factory Facebook page this week. This isn't insider information, unfortunately. That it's likely to be shipping to distributors in the UK this month. So maybe you'll be able to buy one in a shop end of July, maybe start of August.
You heard it here first. Yeah,
you heard it here first.
You love to start these rumors, don't you, on this channel?
I do, yeah. Love starting.
That's literally just a guess.
No. That is because they've said that it's going to be with distributors by the end of the month.
Oh,
so therefore, and distributors don't hang around. But anyway, the other thing I was going to say, so there was a rumor about reef builders a couple of months ago that someone started. I saw at the start of one of the reef builders videos, they said, contrary to what you might have heard on a recent podcast, the Reef Builder studio is not shutting down. And I saw that and I was like, oh God, I think I said that.
Did you?
I went back and watched like 2 or 3 of my live streams the whole way through. And I didn't say it. And I was like, I was sure I said that.
I don't know if people can hear me or not, but there you're back. You keep cutting out every so often.
I don't think anyone. Anyway,
your missus is watching Netflix.
Yeah, no, I stopped that before the stream. But anyway, and I went back and I found out that it wasn't me.
Yeah.
And I'd watched these 3 streams. I was like, I'm sure I said it, but it's because I'd heard it from another podcast and I'd heard someone had say it with confidence. Reef Beef?
No, don't know.
But it's anyway. But they said it, and I was like, oh, thank God! I thought it was me. But anyway, but yeah. So rumors. I do like to start rumors, but that is true. I don't like to start rumors. I don't want to. But anyway, so that is that. And the last thing in news isn't really reefing news. Have you heard of a new social media platform called Threads?
I was going to ask you. I literally wrote it on a piece of paper going, what is that? So it's something to do with Facebook, but how does it work? Is it like just Twitter?
It's Twitter based. The only reason I got interested in it was because I saw on BBC News they said that Elon Musk hates it and he's suing them.
I know.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. In that case, because he's a moron, isn't he? I was like, I'll go and have a look. And so I've downloaded it. I'm on Threads now. It's basically Instagram. It's run by Instagram, but it's basically Twitter. It's their version of Twitter. I don't know if I like it or not, but I'm on it. So if you want to find me,
too many things these days.
That's the thing.
Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and Threads. I feel like an old man now because I'm like, no, like Facebook, Instagram, I've got that. That will do.
But I think the thing to do is do things that you know. So some of my mates have been on me to start up a TikTok for ages, but TikTok isn't really my sort of thing. You've got to be a bit younger and a bit more cool to make TikTok work. Exactly.
Younger and more cool. Maybe it's for me then.
There you go. Maybe you should do it. Even younger than you and even cooler, can you believe?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. So Threads, actually, Twitter is more my cup of tea than TikTok. But I don't know if it'll be any good. And I did go on it and there weren't many aquarium channels on it because it's brand new as well.
Yeah.
There were a few though. There's a few people on there. But I think what the likelihood is it'll be people just posting stuff on threads that they would post on Instagram anyway, which is what I'm doing at the moment. Really,
Yeah.
I'm posting separate stuff, but I'm using it the same way as I would use Instagram.
I'm surprised you can't. Honestly, on Instagram, you can set it so it automatically posts on Facebook. And
You
I'm
probably
surprised
can do that with this as well.
Yeah, I'll have a look.
Yeah.
I'll have a look.
But there you go. So threads is a new thing, and there aren't many aquarium things on there, but there are a few. And that concludes the news.
Just quickly,
Go on.
there was one news article which I thought that you would pick up that you didn't, where they've basically gone. Have you seen the coral restoration? It's on Reef Builders, and they've basically gone. You know, all those people out putting frags on there.
Yeah.
Big waste of time.
Yeah, I did see that actually.
I thought you'd bring that up because I thought that was quite interesting. That was the only article actually on there that I read. Well,
Yeah.
and I read it a few days ago, so I don't remember any of it. But
why was it a waste of time? Because it's like
it's just too time consuming.
Yeah, like a drop in the ocean.
Yeah, like in compare, they basically said that the Great Barrier Reef has had the best growth, I think, in coverage in ages.
Is that a 30-year high? In fact,
yes,
cool.
Yeah, but
it's not as a result of planting.
Yes, yeah. So they're basically going, you know, all those frags we put out there. Yeah. It's not even like 0.00001% of a difference, and if the Great Barrier Reef wants to fix itself, it just does.
That's very interesting. Well, so the details of this, actually, this is Indonesia. Okay, a team of 42 people installed 200,000 coral frags.
Yeah.
Over a period of 4 years, over basically 1 hectare of land, just under.
Yeah.
So 200,000, and it makes no difference.
Yeah.
And what I would say that shows you is that it doesn't hurt if we pull out a few corals and keep them in our living room.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, if you think about it, but
yeah,
that's why I thought that was the most interesting news article of the week. So I was surprised you missed it.
I did see it actually, but I don't know. But yeah, it's funny that your life's work is a waste of time basically. So yeah,
no,
thanks for
coming. Waste of time. No,
it doesn't. It said, oh no, it says maybe a big expensive waste of time.
Oh yeah, I know. I saw that.
I see. If I put that, people accuse me of clickbait.
Yeah, true.
But anyway, yeah, there you go. So interesting stuff. But that does show that how vast the coral reefs are, barrier reef.
And I didn't know it was like a 30-year high. I was surprised by that.
Yeah, I am, because like all you hear is bad news. So
yeah. Anyway, can you replay the news thing, because now we just added the extra news bit on the end. There you go. All is right with the world now.
I can't believe you like the news jingle, but anyway, so there we go. Actually, but I'm just going to see if I can catch up with a couple of questions in the chat. There's one thing that guess you guys tagged me. Original Production says, help, I've got cyanobacteria, I'm struggling with it, lol. So first off, get more flow, and secondly, check your nutrients. If they've bottomed out, get them back up to a sensible level.
Yep.
And take care.
Yeah, you can. There are things that you can get, like red slime remover and stuff like that, but it doesn't fix the problem long term. So you might have a nice clean tank for a week, and then it's back again after that.
Yeah,
unless you fix your underlying issue.
So I got rid of it in the Fluval Evo. Completely got rid of it in the end. Actually, it took a while, but just with big water changes, like 70% water changes, but mainly getting my nitrates had bottomed out to 0, and my phosphate was over 0.9. My HANA checker didn't read high enough.
Wow.
So I got my phosphate back down to like 0.2, 0.3, or a sensible level. I dosed nitrate to get my nitrate back up to 4 or 5 or 10 or whatever. And then when they balanced back out, and I added more flow, because cyano doesn't like flow at all. And then after that, it just went away. It took a bit of time. But
how do you get your phosphate that high?
I know, yeah. I think it might be that rock, actually.
Yeah.
But it came down quite easily. I don't know. But yeah, that's the short answer. And but it does take a bit of time, but that's how to do it. That's how I do it. So now we move on to, and this is because this is the way. So the headline of this this stream is, what tank size is best? And this is the point. And this is episode 9 of this stream. This is the way we do it every single week. We talk about all this stuff, and then in the last half hour we talk about the headline. It's the way we do it. It's just what we do, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to do today. So we're going to talk about what tank size is best. And the reason, so a couple of people commented on my Instagram post to say, oh, actually, hang on a second, there's no such thing as a best size, which you disagree with. But actually, the reason I've said, the reason that the video is called what size tank is best is because that's the question people ask.
Yeah.
And my answer is that there is no such thing as a best size tank. The pros and cons are X, Y, and Z. But that's why the title is what tank size is best. It's not, I'm not saying there is a best size, although Ryan actually is. So
yes, there is definitely a best size.
Ryan, what is this can be our 2-minute discussion. Ryan, what's the best size tank?
Well, basically, so a normal standard tank size, I think, is 2 feet, isn't it?
Yes, height.
Yes, yeah. So the height is 2 feet. Yeah. And the reason for that is because you can easily get to the bottom of the tank. So that's the first thing. So as long as your tank is not higher than that, it is a pain in the ass. Because if you got like 2.5 feet deep, you soon realize that you made a mistake. The second thing that's important is
why is that?
Because you just want to be able to get to the bottom easily with your arm. Because if you're leaning in, if you drop a coral or anything. So look, don't get me wrong. One of my, Jamie's a good friend of mine now. Actually, he has a massive tank, and people will look at that tank and go, "Oh, I'd love to have that tank," but the reality is, it's a pain in the ass to maintain or put corals in there.
Yeah, and so how tall is that? Because this is the tank on screen now.
I don't know how tall. Jamie was in earlier.
It looks at least 3 feet tall.
Yeah, and there's no access from that side. So
I can see.
Yeah. So I remember when I first saw it, I went, "Oh my god, that's not a good idea."
Yeah.
and he has agreed with that. But so yeah, anything that's more than that deep is no good. And also, I would say 30 inches is ideal for like the width, or less than that. Not too much less. Like I think was a standard tank size, like 2 feet, I think, width
front to back. Oh, so it depends. So the Red Sea Reefer 250s, 350, 450, they're 18 inches, I think, front to back.
Yeah, that's a bit too thick, too narrow.
And some of the water boxes, by the way, I'm not just singling out Red Sea. Some of the water box tanks are similarly sized, but the proper. So there are 2 standard sizes, I think, 18 inches front to back and 24 inches, or roughly 22.
I think it's like 2 foot by 2 foot usually, for most tanks. So those 2 are the dimensions that I actually like the most. I have gone 2.5 foot, so that's fine, but it's a bit more difficult at the back.
Front to back. Yeah, that's your current tank is 2.5 foot front to back.
Right, So it's a bit more difficult to get to the back. See, I'm thinking in inches, and obviously we're talking in feet now, so I've got to try and work it out, and I'm not that smart.
30 inches.
But lengthwise, go as long as you want. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's like 12 feet long or 6 feet. 6 feet is the ideal one. 6 feet by 2 feet or 2.5 feet, and then 2 feet tall is ideal.
But you're talking about in terms of just space and that sort of thing, aren't you?
Like ease of maintenance, the sumps are bigger. Obviously, there is one downside. The cost and space they take. That's 2 downsides.
And maintenance. You've got a 10-foot long tank.
No, I disagree. The maintenance on a 10-foot long tank is not that much different to a 4-foot tank. You just have to go.
What about a Fujifilm Evo 50-litre tank?
They're a pain in the ass.
How long does it take you to do a water change on a 10-foot long tank?
Yeah, I know, but it
takes me 30 seconds to do it on the Evo.
They're set
and I can change 70%.
on a tank that size, you have them set up better usually. I know what you're saying. If you're lugging water out, it's more difficult. But the Fujifilm Evo, when you've got to get your hand in there and clean stuff and things like this, they do have downsides.
Yeah. Oh, completely, yeah. And so I think the answer is that all sizes have downsides and upsides. One of the great things about the Fujifilm Evo, and it's a really good tank. I really liked it. It's a bit of a shame that I've upgraded now, because I would have loved to let it grow out for another year, because it's now just looking after itself. But anyway, it's a really cool size because it's so easy. When I've had problems, 70% water change, which is like 30 liters. It's so easy. It takes no time at all. And it resets everything instantly, and so that's brilliant. There's only small pieces of glass to scrape with the algae, so that's great. So and you don't need much food. It doesn't use much electricity.
A small tank is just it
fills
up too quickly.
Well, so there are a couple of things with it. So although it's easy to reset stuff, and like when I had really high phosphate, do a big water change and it's like down to 0.2. the other problem is that if you had a bigger tank, your phosphate wouldn't spike so quickly, and the parameters on that tank are unstable all the time. Even salinity fluctuates because when my filter sponge starts to block up, the water level rises, and so that means that salt water evaporates. So
what are these crazy people in the comment section saying they vastly prefer nano tanks? Have you ever had a massive tank?
But this is the thing. But there are massive benefits of nano tanks, and they're probably the most popular tanks in the hobby.
Yeah, they would be.
And they're really, I've really enjoyed that Fujifilm Evo. I found that actually I did want a bit more space in the end. But if I hadn't been given that tank, I probably wouldn't have bought another one. I was thinking of buying one slightly bigger, but it's a wicked size.
I'll finish this debate immediately.
Okay.
Yeah. People upgrade in this hobby.
Yeah.
Very few people downgrade. They don't go from 1,000 liters to going, oh yeah, I'm going to have a Fujifilm Evo now because I wanted to dabble in the hobby, but the tank was too big. It doesn't usually happen. What usually happens is you start with
electricity prices and so on lately.
Yeah, I know what you mean. See, the problem is I was spoiled. My first tank was 400 liters, and then the next tank was 600 liters, and then the next one was 1,000 liters, and then after that I got a 400. I want the Red Sea 450 or 425 or 450. Can't remember. And it was too small for me. And I've had a nano tank before, didn't like it. Do you remember? I think they were Fluval tanks where they had a glass piece on the top, so you could fill.
Yes, yeah. The Fluval C, M40 or something like that.
Oh, I can't remember, but you could fill out. They had this little tiny access hatch on them, and so you normally you can't look down the tank, can you? Because it's all because of the flow.
Yeah.
Whereas with these, because the water went right up to the glass, you could look into the tank from the top.
Okay.
I can't remember what they're called. I'm going to see if I can find one.
It's not this one, is it? On the right?
No. This was like a really weird looking tank.
Okay. But so whilst you're looking at that,
I found it. The Fluval Edge. They're not really designed.
No, they were little like guppy tanks, weren't they?
Yeah, they're not designed.
Really cool.
I had clownfish in them.
Really, they're designed for freshwater mainly.
Yeah. I had clownfish in them, but you know what the problem is? Algae grows on the glass on the top as well.
Right, yeah. That's one of many problems. 23 liters. I think there's a 46 liter one as well. That one. Yeah, 46. Yeah. They look cool, but that's another. It's like a jellyfish tank. It looks wicked for a week, and then it's like, oh, it's a pain in the backside.
Yeah.
But yeah. But nano tanks are great, and lots of people love them in the chat. And it's partly because they're a lot cheaper. So for a start, that Fujifilm Evo, I ended up upgrading stuff because that's what I do, and I like fancy stuff and blah blah blah. But the tank I think cost me 150 quid, and it came with a return pump, a light, and that was it. So I needed to buy a heater, but actually I could have got away without a power head. Bad idea, but you could have got away without it, and that was it. So you just buy a heater, and then 200 quid, you've got a tank.
Yeah. For a clownfish.
And I've measured the electricity. I forget how much it costs, but compared it to my other tanks, it was next to nothing.
Yeah.
So, and just for a couple of clownfish, and those clownfish are really cool fish. And that tank, that now is settled and it's fine. If I'd left that for a year, in a year's time, it would be looking amazing. And I can tell you, if you saw that tank in a year's time, you'd love it. I'm not saying that you'd want it, but you couldn't help but be impressed.
My question to you is that tank going to get to a year old when all of a sudden there's a hot day and it overheats?
Oh, yeah. So that's the thing. So, and this is what I'm talking about, instability of parameters. So even my salinity was swinging on that, and keeping control of nitrate and phosphate was difficult. And it makes it harder. You've got to test more and all these sorts of things. Or if you don't test, it's more likely to get out of whack seriously in a short space of time. So there's definitely a stability issue, but the trade-off of that is that when things do go wrong, big water change, bob's your uncle, fanny's your aunt, job done. So there are definite pros and cons to it, but I actually quite like them.
They're a gateway into the hobby as well.
Yes.
They're like a gateway drug.
Yeah.
They get people in. And the only downside to that is that obviously there's a cost attached to testing it out. But then again, if you think about it, if you go all in and you don't like it, there's an even bigger cost attached.
And that's the thing. So if the tanks that we looked at earlier, the Red Sea Max bundle with a 170, £3,000 for all the equipment you want. It's a lovely tank, much better equipment than comes with the Evo. But £3,000 for that, or 200 quid for a Fujifilm Evo.
Yeah,
And it's not 10 times as good, is it?
Yeah.
So if you've got the money, of course, it's the £3,000 is better. You get what you pay for. But 200 quid as a, like you say, gateway in is brilliant.
Yeah.
You think, and the trade-off with that is, so if you've got a bigger tank, stability is much better. It takes much longer for things to build up because everything's diluted. You've got space for fish, front to back width in particular, space for fish to swim. So that suddenly, if you've got a Fujifilm Evo, you can't have a tang in it. If you've got a 3 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, or 4 foot tank, you can start putting tangs in and rabbitfish that eat algae. Suddenly, you don't even know what algae is, and you see people online going, "My tank's overrun with algae." You're like, "What's that?"
Yeah.
And you can have more fish, so it looks more spectacular. Your aquascape as well will look much better in a bigger tank. So there's massive advantages to going bigger.
But you can go too big. Ask Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie.
You see, he posted the size in the comment section.
Yeah, 9 foot by 5 foot by 3 foot, was it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so and that 9 foot by 5, 9 by 5 by 3, that's a big old tank. The 5 by 3 is the thing that does that, because for me, 9 foot, this is what you were saying earlier, actually.
Yeah,
height and front to back is, you don't want it to be too big, but a 9 foot by 2 by 2 would look weird, really long and thin. So
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, if it was 2 foot, yeah, you would need it to be 2.5 feet, I think. But there's any more than that, you literally can't get to the back, and it will just be a pain.
Yeah. So IO Quatic says, I disagree on the stability issue. I do a daily, semi-daily 5% water change, and stability hasn't been an issue for me. So it doesn't have to be, but you're doing a water change every day. That's a lot of effort. Whereas if you're like most people, you'll be doing stuff once a week. So it's a fact that it is less stable, but you can counteract that, which is what this guy's saying.
Someone's just said he's put a purple tang. I'm assuming he's joking.
Fujifilm Evo, James.
Yeah, he's asking for an argument.
He's trying.
And Jamie just says it's all about access, which is I think he learned that the hard way.
Yeah. But there are trade-offs. I actually think there is a perfect size. If like for your first ever tank, a Fujifilm Evo is a really, really, really good place to start. Yeah. It will cause you problems because 50 litres isn't a lot and it's difficult. But if you keep on top of it, it's a good place to start because it'll only cost you 200 quid. But
it also might kick you out of the hobby permanently because you find it too hard.
But what if you have the same issue and you're just as lazy with a 4 foot tank and then you spent 10 times as much money?
You got it's far more forgiving. I wonder, because I started with a 5 foot tank. So you have those incremental small successes.
Uh-oh, we've lost Ryan. So I'm going to ask you. You're back.
I don't know why so is it me that's going? Because I keep seeing you disappearing.
I think it's you're because I get told and my Wi-Fi is not very good and it's fine.
Oh.
But anyway, what was I going to say? So I actually think there's a perfect size for a beginner because it is a balance. Like on the Fujifilm Evo, I've said it about 1,000 times already. Water change is tiny. Even like the water change bucket is tiny. Whereas if you've got a massive tank, suddenly you've got to have big old 250 litre vats. You've got to have 2 of them. Yeah. Where are you going to store them? And you've got everything is bigger. So suddenly everything is. And if you're doing a water change, you've got to lug barrels around, loads like heavy weight, all this sort of stuff.
I've just worked out what the problem is. So the internet. Yeah. Marina is watching this live stream upstairs. So
tell her to watch it on data.
So she's obviously like using some of the internet, which might be why it's free because it's never frozen before, has it?
Fair enough. But anyway,
so that might be why.
I think it's generally all right to be fair. But it's harder work, and if you go and if you buy your water in particular to do a water change, and you've got a 500 litre tank, that's 50 litres a week. You've got 2 big full barrels, heavy, pain in the backside. So there's a trade-off between, and there's a balance to be struck. But I actually think there is, if you've got the budget, I think there is a perfect size, because people often say, well, what size tank should I get? Because everybody knows if you've got a small tank, stability is more difficult, but it's easier in terms of maintenance. Whereas if you've got a big tank, it gives you more options and its stability is better, but it takes more time and all that sort of stuff. So, but I actually think there is a right balance. So I'm going to tell you, actually, you'll tell me that you think it's 6 foot. But I think roughly a 3 foot tank, so a Red Sea Reefer 250 or 300, ideally. That for me, no, it's not. It's not.
For me, it's too small.
Was for you, but then you love big ass tanks, don't you?
Yeah.
But the reason that's perfect, and I wouldn't encourage you to go and spend $5,000 on your first ever tank, because you just don't need to. But the reason that size is perfect is because, for a start, it doesn't take up too much space in your house. So your missus isn't going to be angry with you, and you're not going to suddenly have a room dominated by a fish tank.
Yeah, but then you also have to fight the missus for an upgrade. So
that's fine. But you need to plant the seed and then let it grow, and then it's easier. But anyway, so it's less expensive because you don't need anything like as many lights, power heads, big skimmer, all these sort of stuff. So all the equipment is less, the electricity is less, it's running costs are less. Water changes, if it's 250 litres, that's 1 barrel of water. That's still a bit of a pain in the ass, but it's much better. And the bucket you'll need you'll only need two 30-litre buckets, and that's much smaller than the big old ones that you have to store in your shed or your garage or in your closet or whatever. So that's a much better size for the amount of fish tank crap you've got all around the house. And crucially, it's big enough, because if you've got a Fujifilm Evo, you're not going to have a tang in it. Joke all you want. Whereas if you've got a 3-foot tank, you could put a tang in there. Obviously not long term, but you can put a tang in, and suddenly, like I say, you've not got algae problems. You've got more, and you can go in and if you've got a little tank,
you've got
really restricted
instead.
Yeah, exactly. But if you've got a small tank, you might be able to put 2 fish in it, maybe 3 at a push, and then you're bored, and you've got to have tiny fish. Whereas if you've got a 3-foot tank, all right, you're not going to have big tangs and lots of tangs, all that sort of stuff, but you can then have wrasses, you can have hawkfish, you could probably have some dwarf angels or a dwarf angel. You know, it just opens it up massively, and it's bigger is better. I would 4 or 5 foot is lovely, but I think the right balance for your first tank is 3 foot. You're one of the defense rests this case.
No, as I said, I will you couldn't give me a 3-foot tank and that get me to run it literally.
But you couldn't, like, genuinely too small.
I'm not even sure you could give me a 5-foot tank and I'd want it.
Really?
There's something about, as I said, I've had a 4-foot tank. This, for me, once you've gone 6 foot, you just don't want to go back. It's as simple as that.
I bet.
And it's so you actually, while we're on the topic of, because you said about upgrading, I negotiated an upgrade with your missus the other day. I negotiated a bigger tank for you. I'm saying this live on the live stream, so people know this. Where you had permission to get a larger one put in to replace your SPS one. And what's happening?
Talk is cheap, is what I'm saying. So I've floated that idea many times before.
Talk is cheap, but tanks are not.
No, exactly. But I'd say that the money isn't an issue, you know, because I'd probably be able to get one for free, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's not for a start. That would mean I would have to break down my main tank.
I know, I wouldn't do it if I were you either. 5-6
years old, I love it. I complain about it from time to time, but
You'd
love
lose
it.
Probably a load of colonies.
I'd lose a load of colonies. I'd probably have to sell them all realistically and start again. And then I've got an empty tank. Then I've got 2 years of strife while I get everything under control.
Yeah.
And it's already a 4-foot by 2-foot tank in my living room. It's not a big house. It dominates the room. You've seen it. So a 5-foot tank is even worse. I'd love it, but it's not the way to go. But I'd say anyway. So 3-foot for me is the sweet spot, and you don't have to spend big bucks. You can spend small bucks ish, especially if you go second hand.
Yeah.
And get a really good system for a 3-foot tank, and then you're not going to, like Fujifilm Evo, you might want to upgrade after a year. 3-foot tank, actually, I upgraded after a year to a 4-foot.
Yeah,
but you're
4-foot, much I think, is what I would suggest.
It's just getting big, though, isn't it? What about water changes and
more
lights, bigger skimmers, more power heads?
I'm not sure what got me so invested, because I was in love straight away. That was it. There was never, I don't think ever. Don't get me wrong. I've had a couple of bad tank issues or whatever, which makes you go, oh, you know, I don't want to do this. But never have I ever actually gone, I'm ready to close everything down and shut it and sell it. I've never felt that. Whereas there'll be plenty of things I've tried in the past. Hobbies. I tried beekeeping once. I was a terrible beekeeper.
Really?
I got stung all the time. So it's not like just because I tried something, I'm invested in it. It's just there's something about this that just hooks people, or it completely repels them.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
So,
but you just like massive tanks, but that's because you're used to it. But I think I would love a 6-foot tank. It'd be amazing. But I think realistically, for most people, there's a balance. And if you've got a 4-foot tank, it's a lot of equipment all of a sudden. and a lot of everything basically, and just there comes a tipping point. But if, to be fair, if you get a 3-foot tank and you get addicted to it, and after a year you want to upgrade, you can probably recycle most of the equipment from your existing tank. You probably won't need to get a bigger skimmer. You probably won't need to get more lights, because you probably got 2 XR15s, for example. You will need to get more power heads. You might be okay with your return pump. You might be okay with your heater. There are various things you can probably carry across.
Are people upgrade? Oh, I suppose you did upgrading by just a foot though.
Yeah, I did.
If you're going to upgrade,
3 foot, to be fair, 3 foot to 4 foot is a big deal. And actually, mine was 18 inches front to back, and I went to 2 foot front to back. So that's a lot. That was, I think 4 foot is a really nice size. But that is, because when you start going to 5 foot, that's another light. That's another power head. And the tank's another 500 quid. So it gets expensive. So you got to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's all.
It's just hard for me to understand. It's hard for me to understand.
It's so funny that because it's just so funny that you're so like, no, 6 foot or nothing.
Yeah, and as I said, I don't know why. It's because I started with such a big tank, so I have had a nano tank. I had one at my office at the old company, and I hated it. I literally hated it. But that might be because obviously I was transporting water from my house to the office. I wasn't there at the weekend. That it was obviously a bit more unstable than a big tank. Yeah. So maybe that's why I hate it. But see, Mo's Reef with me. Yes, I've got a first person who's gone. Yes, I'm with Ryan.
Well, I just kept scrolling back to Mo's Reef, and he makes a good point. Cheap on the tank, and then spend thousands on corals.
Yeah. If Mo's Reef, who I think it is, I think you have an amazing tank because he's on Instagram. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. But the point he's making is, what's the point of spending £1,000 on a cheap tank, or 500 quid on a cheap tank, and then spending 10 grand in corals? But as far as I'm concerned, that's not necessarily a bad way of doing it, because it's far better to spend money on, and I'm going to sound like a hypocrite here, far better to spend money on the corals than it is equipment. So I think it's much better to do that. And this is if it's your first. For me, there's no way I'm going to go out and buy a 5-year-old 2-foot tank as my main tank. Yeah. I would want bigger. But if you're getting into the hobby, I just think it's too risky buying this enormous tank with a load of expense. It's bad enough with a 3-foot or a 2-foot tank. 2-foot is still fine, but 2 or 3-foot tank is bad enough. If you're buying 4 or 5 foot, the cost just goes like it keeps on going and going and going and going.
Do you know what you spent on your first tank roughly?
Two grand, including the first 2 fish, basically.
Yeah, so that. Because I'm just wondering what the new level of entry into the hobby is, what the new price bracket. Because don't get me wrong, there are definitely people that can't do it anymore because of the cost.
So I went with the Clear Seal Reef Space, partly because it was cheaper. There were a couple of options. The Red Sea Reefer, I think, was available. Yeah. But the Red Sea, the Clear Seal Reef Space was a bit cheaper. So it wasn't like the latest, most premium tank around. But let's go with my theory of a 3-foot tank being the perfect size, and the fact that I don't like 18 inches front to back. Oh, that's actually not too bad. Oh, no. I see. So a 3-foot Red Sea Reefer. Let's have a look and see how much that is. Red Sea Reefer Max. This is the new ones, right? 300. Oh God, is it that? How much is it? Bloody hell! Where is it going? Hang on. I don't think I'm looking in the right place. I'm just trying to find. Okay, so the 3-foot tank, the Red Sea Reefer 300 is 1,600 quid. That's not too bad. In fact, here we go. The max, £3,900, which is for all of the equipment. Now, I wouldn't buy that equipment. I'd buy different stuff. I'd save a few hundred quid as well, to be fair. But 4 grand. No, that is expensive, because I think my equipment was about 1,500 quid. So my equivalent of that was a lot less. So the price has gone up and up and up. But then this is a more premium tank than mine was. So
yeah, it's sad. It is sad. Now, don't get me wrong. You can obviously get into it with secondhand equipment, but it is sad because I wouldn't have got into it if I wouldn't have been able to afford it originally when I was 18. If that was the barrier to enter the hobby. So Ryan wants everyone. Someone's very
depends.
Ryan wants everyone to have 1,000 litre tank so they can fill them with coral. Exactly.
Ah, that's
Yeah.
what it is. Now I understand. But so I got into the hobby later. So I was like 32. So I was like well established in my career. It's still £2 was a lot of money to me, but it's
Yeah.
not like I was scrimping and scraping and saving and like working, a pub or whatever. So so if you're at that level, you got no chance of affording a big tank.
Yeah.
But if you join the hobby a little bit later and you've got a bit of money, bit of disposable income, then it's not so impossible. But even then, £4 for a 3-foot tank with all the equipment, a lot of cash. That's why you should get a Fujifilm Evo.
Well,
and then you only need like 10 corals.
you've not sold it to me, I'm afraid.
No.
I won't. That will turn up on my doorstep now. You're not using it.
No, yeah.
You'll go set this up.
I'm not trying to sell it to you because I know I've got no chance, but I'm trying to sell it to the people.
I'd be interested to see if I could connect it to the coral farm somehow, so I don't have to do any maintenance. If I would enjoy it.
I don't think you would.
No.
It's too small for you. I really liked it, and I like having a tank. I liked having that tank. It's a, like I say, it's a slight shame that I'm upgrading it, but in another way, it's not a shame because I've got a really nice tank. But they're cool. Actually, a lot of people get into the hobby by changing freshwater tanks into saltwater tanks. I was put off doing that because the more I read about it, the more I was like, oh, I think it's doing half a job and all that sort of stuff. I actually think it's a really good idea. I made a video a couple of years ago about setting up a tank for under £187, I think it was, something really cheap. It was a 100-litre tank, so a good sized tank. It was just a freshwater tank, and you don't need a skimmer, you don't need all this stuff. You could convert it easily into a saltwater tank. And it was cheap, but it was still big enough that you could have a bit more fish selection and a little bit more stability than something like a Fluval Evo. So that is what I think I would recommend to most people getting into the hobby if you're on a tight budget, because the Evo is quite small. You're smirking, Ryan.
No, I just Charlie Toombs has said Reef Dork man of the people.
I am a man of people, exactly. Yeah.
What?
Red Sea alert. Brandon Bell says he'd much rather go for water box than Red Sea. Haven't heard good things about Red Sea tanks.
They're roughly the same.
They are.
Like, they both have their ups and downs. They're both high quality tanks. They are. I've not had a large Red Sea tank, so I don't know about the cabinet, but I'm assuming they're aluminum.
So my aluminium. My one is.
I was going, where did that come from?
I know. My one is not aluminium. But the Cade one is, and that's massive overkill on a tank this size. But I have to say, because there are trade-offs. It's not actually necessarily a good thing on a tank that size, because the aluminium is so thick. It means that you've got less space in the sump for a sump. But anyway, on a bigger tank, it's so, although it's overkill, that cabinet feels so solid. It's really nice to have such a solid cabinet. And I don't know about the new ones, about the new Red Sea ones, but I wouldn't. At some point in a month or two's time, I'll make a video comparing Waterbox, Red Sea, and Cade. And I can tell you what I'm going to be saying now already. I just know.
Okay.
Waterbox and Red Sea are pretty much the same. The plumbing is better on Waterbox. The sump is better on Red Sea. But basically,
your opinion.
In my opinion, that's the thing. Basically, it's a toss of a coin. They're both really nice. You'll like some things about some of them, other things about others. Just get whichever one you think looks best. Basically, they're the same. The Cade ones they're more expensive, quite a lot more expensive. And you get a lot of extra features for that. So it's not just wasted money. There are premium features in it, so you're getting what you pay for. And it's just up to you as to whether or not. But actually, the tanks are probably very, very similar to the others. So actually, it's just up to you to decide, do I really need all those extra fancy features?
And so basically, they're all the same clarity of glass.
I haven't noticed a difference. The trouble is, I haven't got two of the same size tanks from Waterbox and Red Sea. So different thickness of glass and all that sort of stuff. But so I don't know, but I can't tell a difference. To me, the glass looks the same on Waterbox, Red Sea, and Cade for that matter. So the answer is there are pros and cons of all of them. But they're all really good. They're all expensive. And so you're not likely to be disappointed. I'd be surprised if someone bought a Red Sea tanker and was like, oh God, it's disgusting. Or a water box tank and, oh, I don't like this. Whatever. You know, they're all nice. You obsess about this and you're like, oh, I don't know which one I should go for. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's not going to have a big impact. But anyway.
Like most things that we do in the hobby,
Exactly.
it doesn't really matter what lights you do, what lights you get most of the time.
What matters is water quality.
Yeah.
That's where you should obsess. Everything else, it doesn't matter what size lights you get. It doesn't matter what skimmy you get. All these things, it makes a difference. But we're talking incremental, marginal things. But anyway, so we have solved the problem. You think 25-foot tank is
25-foot tank, as long as it's 2x2 or 2.5 by 2.
And I think there are pros and cons of small, medium, and large tanks, and that 3-foot is a really nice middle ground.
I agree to disagree.
But we both agree that it's very expensive.
That's true.
No matter what.
That is true.
Is there anything else you would like to discuss, Ryan?
Not. I've got anything else on my list? No. So we're all good as far as I'm concerned. We're reaching the 2-hour mark, aren't we?
We are indeed. In which case, I've just seen there's the software has flagged 2 things for me. Chris Lawton has become a new member. Welcome along. As has I Will Never Get a Life, which is a great name. So welcome along to YouTube membership. You now get early access, priority access to all Reef Dork videos before anybody else, even before Ryan.
Yeah, and that's something I really want.
Which I know you do. Yeah. What he does is like pester me. He's like, Alex, can you show me your video, please? I'm like, no, sign up to a membership.
Yeah, see, I'm too tight.
Exactly. But anyway, thank you all for watching. Ryan, as ever, thank you for coming along, and I will catch you all next week.
Yep.
Bye, guys.
See you later.